I'm very pleased to discuss with you. I'm Malik Chahed. I'm the Global Omnichannel Director for Hematology in Novartis. You're probably about to embark into from a journey from a multi-channel to omnichannel. And that means customer centricity. Well, customer centricity is, of course, something we are all aiming for. And customer centricity is mainly also targeting the customer journey. Customer journey is something we've been doing, of course, for the past years. And from product agnostic to the diagnosis itself, to prescribing the product, to the observance of the patient, we are always trying to aim those micro moments where decision can be made. Those micro moments could be, of course, influenced by many different factors. And we always try to understand what is those A to B shift and how do we go from product agnostic to product loyalist, and what are the type of influence. And of course, now in the digital age, the type of influence can be very different from 10 years ago. Of course, we have the peer-to-peer network. We have, as usual, the scientific exchange. We have the scientific education, the clinical studies. But we also have more networking. We also have a different type of interaction between patient and HCPs, and of course, where your products stand in the competitive landscape, and what does it do into how does it serve the patient at the end. Of course, to have a more refined customer journey, you need to have multiple types of segmentation. What are the different types of segmentation that are very usual? Well, the first one is attitudinal. Attitudinal is what is the doctor doing for a specific setup. To give you an example, in oncology, you might have some hormonal users versus the people that are using targeted therapy. Why are they doing that, and what is sustaining those decisions? You have as well the behavioral segmentation. And, the behavioral segmentation is more about why is a doctor doing is the doctor more patient oriented, or is he more science oriented? Of course, it can be both, and depending on the moment. Additionally to that, now you need to have the digital segmentation. Is he more tech savvy or not? In which channel can you reach him? And last but not least, you also have the kind of the real life data that you need to add in. What is the mood of the day? We are all human. We can change from one day to another. We would like to be rich or not. There is as well the day of the week that is important. Is it better to reach someone on a Monday or a Friday? There is a day, there is also the time of the day that could also have an influence into the customer journey. Would you like to be reached during your breaks, or would you like to be reached during your working hour? Would you like to be influenced? Would you like to have a discussion at the end of your clinical work, or more at the beginning? And so, what does that mean for you? Well, that means that you are going to have way more content to create, and that you're going to have way more data to analyze, which is a good thing. But hear me out here. It also means that you used to create 5 emails and 1 website, and now you might need to create 50 emails, 6 sales aid, 3 remote calls material, 10 Facebook ads, and 6 websites. But nothing to worry here, right? Now there is also good tools that will help you to enable all of that. A few examples of that would be modular content. Modular content is a great way of creating omnichannel engagement with your customers. Create bite-sized content that you would be able to use from one channel to another. You would have as well the agile content creation, which allows your marketeer to create material as if it was a PowerPoint and then push it into the different channels and create way more iteration of this content to try to adapt to the very changing environment and create more content on a more frequent basis with better quality. You also have marketing automation. Marketing automation is a great tool to help you to create this journey in an automated way, depending on the doctor's reaction. And I would say that's probably one of the great tools of the future. Of course, some of the other markets, other industries are using that extensively now. And last but not least, and that's some of the latest technology you can find, you can also have dynamic content, a content that would change depending on the information that you and on the preference that the doctors expressed, and will enable you to have very personalized content for one HCP. Well, we all had plans, right? That was the blue sky scenario. But of course, in March 2020, everything's changed. And for everyone, there was a great acceleration for digital adoption. We were not able to see our doctors, and patients were not able to see their doctors as well. And all our organization had to adapt to this change, and that would include an increase of digital interactions with our HCPs. The need of our HCPs and patients changed as well. Of course, the channel mix changed, and their own needs, their own personal and professional needs changed as well. But that could also create a digital fatigue as well for the HCP. And we all done a lot during those phases to make sure that we're able to engage and to help patients get the right drug. But the result was also the digital fatigue. And there's more and more player in the game, if I may say. So the digital volume overall increased. In this slide from BCG, you can see that on the left side, we went from 25% of digital interaction to 98% at the peak of COVID. Of course, that's something that was a reaction to the COVID. And in the rest of the slide, you can see that we tend to go back to a more hybrid model as well, which is preferred in most of the ways, but still the increase of volume of digital interaction will stay for long. Interesting enough, the channel preferences didn't change that much. We are still, the preferred channels, according to this BCG study, are still more on the medical education, the face-to-face interaction with MSLs and reps, as well as speaker tours and those type of usual tactics that we tend to deploy. That means that we have to adapt to this new paradigm, right? And to fit within the very busy day of the doctor, we need also to answer 4 simple questions, right? The first one is why? Why are we engaging with the customers? If you think about your customer journey, why are you engaging with him? Well, this one is the easy one. It's how are you supporting the patient outcome? Could be supporting the quality of life, supporting the efficacy, supporting the tolerability. That's something we've been doing in the past in an ethical way. After the why, it's the what. The what for me is how do you use data to create better message? So meaning that you would try a message, measure it, and try to see if it resonates with the right population according to your initial segment that you had in the past. Then you have the quality of the message. Is this the right message? Is this specific asset working or not? Then you have the message sequence. What is the best sequence of message and content that you can provide to a customer for him to understand and support his patient better? And last but not least, as I was saying before, it's about the individualization of the content? Are you able to personalize the content to one HCP based on the different elements that you had in the past? Then you have the where and the when. When and where are becoming even more critical, as I was saying before. At what time of the day would you like to interact with your customers? Is this early in the morning? Is this during the lunchtime? In the evening when he's more free? Do you want to interact with him when he's commuting? Do you want to interact with him when he's in his car? That's the type of thing that we need to understand as well. When is the best moment in your customer journey to interact with him? Because according to the data I've collected, of course, that could change a lot from one country to another, even from one specialty to another. But you could see some huge difference in terms of open rate and click-through rate, depending on that. But those customers could be different as well from one day to another. Of course, it's about also the quality of service that we can offer. Are we serving the purpose that we always try to push some content on our side, but of course we need to understand what are their needs and are we answering their needs. And talking about needs, as I was saying before, you want to create new websites, you want to have more content, but it's not to have more and more. It's just to make sure that when they go back to your websites, you don't have such a don't have such a high bounce rate because your content hasn't been refreshed in the past 6 months. You want to have fresh content in a smart manner, because if you want them to go back to your website, then you need to have something to offer. So where do you start? $1 million question. The easiest way for you would be to start with your field force. Your field force is still owning the relationship with your doctor, and that's still one of your most valuable assets, as I was saying before. They would know the customers, they would accept or not the behavioral segmentation and the type of element that you're adding. Of course, market research cannot hurt you, right? You can find some valuable information in those type of surveys. But that was also the marketing of the kind of past. It's still something that is very required, but you cannot stop here because those things are still very declarative. So what do you do with that? Well, you need to enrich this initial hypothesis with real life data. How do I do that? You've built your behavioral segmentation, attitudinal segmentation, you have your digital segmentation, and you've done some market research to understand when is the best time to engage with what type of content. Well done. Now, try to test specific type of message in A/B testing from one subpopulation to another. Measure it, test it, try to see if you can create sub-segment of customers based on that. And see if there is some population that are answering better to one or the other, create 6, 10 touch points around that, and try to measure the overall engagement. And then create subpopulation, experiment, and test. Of course, experimentation here is critical. It is a science, but it's also an art in a way. So you would need to have your new customer journey for subpopulation and try to see what is working best at which moment and trying to fine tune. Of course, this fine tuning will require some governance. What I'm saying governance is you need to have, for example, taxonomy. You need to make sure that the content is stacked properly across the different channels and that you can find your message that you had in the past around tolerability of your product or around the quality of life for the patient, and try to measure it across the different segments and across the different channels, which of course will require some infrastructure. That's not the easiest part that you will do, of course, but I think that's the one that will bring you the most impact. So what the future look like? Well, we talked about what should you do now, right? You had your initial customer journey with your micro moments. You have, you are now clear on what are the different type of segments that you can implement right now and that you should use for advanced analytics. You are now clearer on what kind of message you want to push for each type of customers. And you try to implement some experimentation with A/B testing to create subsegment of customers to try to better serve the patient outcome. So now, one thing that is missing in here is you're still measuring kind of engagement, click-through rate, open rate, bounce rate, all those things that we've been doing in the past. What we should be doing as well is measure of impact in a way. Is this measure of impact could vary, right? Depending if you're talking about medical engagement or commercial engagement, you won't measure the same impact. For medical engagement, it could be a better patient outcome. For commercial engagement, at one point you have to relate that to sales. And your data scientist or the team that your analyst that will work in your team will help you to get master data management and try to measure your impact to sales. Even at brick level, it's better than nothing. Even if you don't have HCP level data because you're not in the US, well, you can still create some experimentation there to get past to prescription to see what is the best engagement you can do and best sequence of message at brick level. This is still something experimental. Don't worry here. It's still something where everybody is working and everybody is at different stage of the journey there. For me, the second part of the customer journey that will change is how do we create a network omnichannel? How do we engage different customers together to try to serve the best patient outcome? Nurses, HCPs, patients, are we able to really better serve the patient outcome by engaging multiple stakeholders at once, engaging them in something that would beneficiate the patient at the end of the day? Of course, there is also the two-way communication. For now, we've been discussing about websites, social media, emails, but usually it's a one-way communication, except, of course, for the face-to-face and for the remote calls. That's something where we've been discussing with HCPs, but we don't have their feedback on the website or on the emails. Well, I would say that probably in the past, we've been stopping that also because of pharmacovigilance in a way. I would say that with the support of artificial intelligence and more governance, we should be able to handle those PV cases and open the discussion between physician and us, because I think we are missing a big part of the data and a big part of the communication and engagement. Of course, we still need to think where the reps will position himself in this overall customer journey. Is he able to engage and to coordinate that? Could we think also of hybrid model where for mature brand, you won't have a rep because you need to focus on your launch brands? But anyway, in that case, you would still need to have a two-way engagement where we would still have some personalization of the content. And I'm having in mind that the personalized experience using bots and AI could be super powerful. And in that case, if you click on our website and then you go into one of the product information, you should be able to discuss with a bot. If you don't have the answer, you should be able to discuss with a real human and even book an appointment with reps or MSL. And this would really help the doctor to mix and match the non-personal promotion and, of course, the personal promotion to serve a better patient outcome. Well, I hope this course was helpful and interesting for you, and I wish you a great day today.